The story begins in a hospital near North Dakota, where patients sit in the waiting area, hoping to see a doctor. Nurses walk quickly from room to room, and doctors focus on their work. It's just another normal day, until a black Labrador suddenly appears. At first, no one pays much attention. People assume he belongs to a visitor or a patient. He walks through the halls, wagging his tail and stopping near strangers, making them smile. Some reach down to pet him, enjoying the small moment of happiness. But as the days pass, something strange happens. The dog never leaves. The hospital staff starts asking around, but no one claims him. Concerned about health rules, they decide to send him away. But before they can, something unexpected happens. Patients, visitors, and even some nurses beg them to let the dog stay. He brings comfort to those in pain. The waiting room, once filled with worried faces, now feels warmer. The CEO watches the Labrador play with patients and sees the happiness he brings. Finally, he makes a decision. The dog can stay. Before making him an official resident, the hospital staff took the dog to a vet for a full checkup. They wanted to be sure he was healthy and wouldn't pose any risk to patients. The vet confirmed that as long as he had monthly checkups, there was nothing to worry about. With that reassurance, the hospital welcomed him as one of their own. They named him Milo. It felt like the perfect name because somehow he made everyone feel a little better. Milo quickly became a favorite among staff, patients, and visitors. People waiting for their appointments enjoyed taking him for walks, and he happily followed along, wagging his tail. He brought comfort to those who felt nervous and company to those who felt alone. Even the hospital's safety inspectors, who were usually strict, saw the positive impact he had and allowed him to stay. Everything seemed perfect. But there was one thing about Milo that puzzled everyone. Every day, at a certain time, Milo would disappear. No one knew where he went. At first, the staff didn't think much of it, but as days passed, their curiosity grew. They decided to keep an eye on him. One day, a young boy waiting for his mother noticed Milo sneaking away. The boy had been anxious, but the moment he saw the friendly dog, he smiled and followed him. Minutes later, the boy's father realized he was missing and alerted the staff. They searched the hospital and found him sitting in a quiet, empty room. Milo curled up beside him. The bed was untouched, yet the dog seemed drawn to it, as if he had a special connection to the space. The next day, Milo disappeared again, and a nurse decided to follow him. She found him in the same empty room, sitting quietly by the bed. This happened every day. The staff found it ODD, especially since the room had been empty for weeks. Hospital management had planned to renovate it, but a lack of funds had delayed the process. Wanting to understand Milo's behavior, they locked the room one evening. The next morning, he sat outside the door, whining softly. He pawed at the door, his tail low, his usual energy gone. The staff couldn't ignore his distress, so they left the door open. As soon as they did, Milo walked in and resumed his usual routine. Now, everyone was even more curious. Dr. Lila, a dedicated nurse, felt there was something deeper behind Milo's actions. She began asking around, but no one had answers. Determined to find out, she watched him closely. Each time Milo entered the room, he went straight to the restroom and sniffed the metal support bars. Afterward, he let out a sorrowful whimper, then climbed onto the empty bed. He would sit there for a while, his head resting as if waiting for someone. That evening, Lila searched online and found stories of dogs mourning their owners. It made her wonder, was Milo grieving for someone who had once stayed in that room? The next day, she returned to work, determined to find out the truth. She took a tissue and wiped the hospital bed frame and the metal bars where Milo always sniffed. Then she rushed to the hospital lab and handed the samples to Alex, a trusted lab technician. Hours passed, but Lila couldn't concentrate. She kept checking her phone, waiting for an update. Finally, it rang. "I have the results," Alex said. "The DNA from the sample matches someone in our database, an 88-year-old man named Johnson. He was a patient here and passed away last month." Lila's heart pounded. Her suspicion was right. Milo had a deep connection to someone who had stayed in that room. She asked Alex for more details. As she read through them, she learned that Johnson had lived on a farm outside the city. Wanting to understand Milo's story, she decided to visit. The drive was long, but she didn't care. When she finally reached the farm, she knocked on the door. After a moment, an elderly woman opened it, her eyes filled with curiosity. "Yes?" the woman asked, looking at Lila with curiosity. Lila introduced herself and explained why she had come. She described the black Labrador that had been staying at the hospital. The woman's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" she said, her voice shaking. "That sounds like Apollo, my father's dog!" She took a deep breath and explained. Her father, Johnson, had lived on this farm for years. When his health declined, he was admitted to the hospital, and they visited him every day. But during that time, Apollo had been left behind. They hadn't been able to take care of him properly. "He must have followed our scent to the hospital," she whispered. "But by the time he got there, my father was already gone." Lila felt a lump in her throat. Milo wasn't just a stray. He was Apollo, searching for his owner. Tears filled Lila's eyes as she told the woman that Apollo was still at the hospital. Without hesitation, the woman grabbed her coat. "Take me to him," she said. When they arrived, Apollo was in his usual spot, sitting by the empty bed. The moment he saw Johnson's daughter, his tail wagged wildly. He ran to her, jumping up in joy. The bond between them was unbreakable. The woman knelt down, wrapping her arms around him. "Apollo, we've missed you so much," she whispered. Apollo nuzzled into her, his tail wagging like never before. The hospital staff watched, some with tears in their eyes. Lila felt a warmth in her heart. She had never seen such loyalty before. Before leaving, Johnson's daughter turned to Lila. "Thank you for believing in him. Because of you, he's coming home." Lila smiled as she watched them walk away. Apollo had finally found his way back, proving that love never truly fades. It just waits to be found again. So that's all for today. Now it's your turn to share your thoughts about this story. What's the next story you'd like to know? Let us know in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any of these amazing videos on Wild Wonder.